Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our meeting for this morning. It is Friday, December 21st, 2018. This is the Zoning Administrator meeting. We have 4 items that appear on our agenda as continued items this morning. My name is Wanda Williams. I'm the Deputy Zoning Administrator for the County of Santa Cruz. I will be conducting the hearings this morning. Typically what we do for all scheduled items is to ask for a staff presentation. Following the staff presentation, if I have any questions or any clarification, I will seek to obtain additional information from staff. And then following that, we will open up the hearing for public testimony and comments. And so normally we will begin with the applicant or the applicant's representative, the applicant or representative to provide any remarks, clarification, ask questions, and we will provide 3 minutes for that. And if I need to extend that to get additional clarification, additional information, I will do so. Following that, we will open it up for further public testimony from any interested member of the public. We will give you an equal 3 minutes to address any item that appears on our agenda. We have a timer up front. When it gets to the red, your time is up. When it gets to yellow, you have 1 minute remaining. When it's on red, if you're in the middle of a sentence, we're going to let you finish. I'm not going to cut you off. I'm not going to be rude about it. If I need to extend anyone's time that is speaking or get clarification, I will do so at that time as well. So everyone will have an equal amount of time to address every item on our agenda this morning. We typically then do not allow for rebuttal or for additional remarks after that. Once I close the hearing from further public testimony, it is up to me as the Deputy Zoning Administrator to discuss the item with staff or to ask the applicant or specific members of the public to come back and clarify any item. So that's the order that we typically follow. We normally don't need to have security or other measures implemented for zoning administrator hearings. So hopefully we will be able to get through these items very quickly this morning, but I've got all day, if we need to get clarification or testimony and it extends later into the day, that's what we've got the room reserved for. So, as I indicated, these are 4 continued items on our agenda this morning, and I see that item number 4 on our agenda, at the request of the applicant, application 181104 has been pulled off of the agenda and will be continued to a date to be determined. Why are we pulling it off of the agenda?
It was pulled by the applicant, but it's continued indefinitely.
Okay. So we're going to pull this off of the agenda to allow the applicant to work out whatever issues they need to with staff. We're not going to continue this item any further. When it comes back for further public testimony or consideration, there will be individual notices sent out to all of the surrounding property owners. There will be a newspaper notice provided. It will get posted on our board and on our website as well and at the site. So this will be treated as if it's picking up to be a new item at that time. So having said that, I'm going to also note that I believe that we included a copy of all the materials at the back of the room for any member of the public that did not get a chance to pull up the items online or else to come into our department and review items ahead of time. There are materials at the back of the room, so the same materials that I have before me are at the back of the room. I don't have anything different in front of me this morning. So let's begin with application 181099, and I'm going to indicate, I guess, for this meeting, we're probably not going to need a security guard up here. So I'll just note that, as I indicated, let's try and keep it orderly. We'll begin with the application 181099. There is no site address for this property as for the other applications. However, it is near APN 029-03110. And as indicated in the staff report, it is located near 2688 Madison Lane. I'm going to stop for a second to try and remember. I'm going to have to see these if I'm trying to remember where this one was at. This item, as noted on the agenda, was continued from the zoning administrator meeting of December 7th, 2018. This is a request to install a new wireless microcell communications facility for Verizon, and it's identified as node 135 of their system. It is a co-location on an existing power pole. Under FCC regulations, this is considered a co-location. And it consists of one 4-foot tall by 14 and a half or 14.6 inch diameter antenna, two 27-inch by 12-inch remote radio units, one 7-inch by 10-inch diplexer shroud, a PG&E smart meter, and associated minor equipment. The existing PG&E utility pole that this is going to be located on is approximately 29.4 feet above ground. A 7-foot wood pole extension required by PG&E is proposed to be affixed to the top of the existing utility pole. The maximum height of the utility pole with the required pole extension required by PG&E and the antenna that will be affixed to the top of the extension would measure approximately 41.4 feet above ground. So it's going from 29.4 feet to 41.4 feet to comply with PG&E requirements. The applicant is required to obtain a commercial development permit and a determination that this project is exempt from further environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act. The project site, as noted, is located near 029-03110 or 2688 Madison Lane in the public right-of-way area. The owner of the property is the County of Santa Cruz, which is public right-of-way. The applicant is Swift Consulting, Ken Hart representing that firm. It is a supervisor of District 1. As indicated, it's being mounted to a PG&E utility pole in Supervisor District 1. The project planner is Jonathan DeSalvo, and we will ask for a staff report.
Good morning, Zoning Administrator Williams, Jonathan DeSalvo, Planning Department staff. Today we have 3 separate new wireless communication facility sites being considered for approval. All of these sites were continued at the December 7th Zoning Administrator hearing to the December 21st hearing in order for hearing posters to be posted at each site for a duration of 10 days prior to the hearing. Affidavits and photos have been submitted affirming that the hearing posters have been posted at each site. Notice of the December 21st Zoning Administrator hearing was also published in the Santa Cruz Sentinel newspaper. All of these facilities, termed microcells, share a number of commonalities. Therefore, I will start by discussing the features common to all of them, and for each agenda item, I will address the individual characteristics that are unique to each site. These 3 applications are for new microcell wireless communication facilities co-located on existing or new freestanding utility poles located in county rights-of-way in several locations throughout the neighborhood of Live Oak. These facilities are proposed by Verizon in order to provide cellular and digital service, including data and internet. All these microcell sites involve antennas and related equipment mounted on a utility pole. The type of antenna proposed at all sites is a canister antenna or cantenna, in which antenna equipment is located within a cylindrical enclosure. All sites are located in zone districts in which they are conditionally permitted by the county code. All sites are considered co-locations as the wireless communication facilities will be located on existing or new utility poles. The co-location of wireless facilities is generally encouraged by the county code. In order to minimize visual impact on surrounding land uses in the natural landscape, the wireless communication facilities and associated equipment are conditioned to be painted to match the color of the utility equipment and to minimize the size and bulk of the associated equipment as is feasible. A radio frequency, or RF, radiation emissions calculation report was prepared for each of these sites by a qualified consulting engineer, Hamlet and Edison Consulting Engineers. The submitted RF reports indicate that each site would be in compliance with FCC regulations in respect to RF exposure levels. Written comments to the zoning administrator have been attached to each staff report. Written comments the zoning administrator received after the staff reports were published were forwarded to the zoning administrator. This includes correspondence received this morning. Now on to the first proposal, agenda item number 1, application 181099 or DEG 135. This is a proposal to install a microcell on an existing 29.4 foot tall utility pole, including a 4 foot tall by 14.6 inch diameter antenna mounted on top of a 7 foot wooden pole height extension for a total proposed height of 41.4 feet with related pole mounted equipment. This pole is located in the county right-of-way on the east side of Madison Lane, approximately 100 feet south of the intersection with Soquel Avenue, adjacent to 2698 Madison Lane and APN 029-03110. The subject utility pole is located between the back of the sidewalk and the adjacent parking lot of Flooring Business, doing business as Carpet 1, and the adjacent residential property containing 6 residential units in an area zoned M1, light industrial. All adjacent parcels are also zoned M1. The immediate neighborhood contains a mix of light industrial and residential uses. The project site is located approximately 25 feet from the nearest structure, which is residential. The RF report prepared by Hamlet and Edison Consulting Engineers dated April 23, 2018 indicates that the project would result in an exposure limit of approximately 0.5% of the applicable public exposure limit at ground level and 0.96% at the second floor elevation of any nearby building. Consequently, sufficient evidence has been submitted to indicate that the current proposal would be in compliance with FCC regulations with respect to RF exposure levels. Specific to this site, since the December 7th hearing, the department has received 1 general inquiry and several letters requesting the item be continued due to the height at which the hearing posters were posted at the site. Staff recommends the following edits to the staff report. On page 1, table 1, the adjacent address for application 181099 should read 2698 Madison Lane, not 2688 Madison Lane. On page 1, in the location section, the adjacent address should read 2698 Madison Lane, not 2688 Madison Lane. Similarly, in the project section, on page 3 of the project setting section, the adjacent address should read 2698 Madison Lane, not 2688 Madison Lane. As proposed and conditioned, the project is consistent with all applicable codes and policies of the zoning ordinance and general plan. Staff therefore recommends approval of commercial development permit number 181099 and acceptance of a notice of exemption from further environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act. This concludes my presentation for this application. Staff is available for any questions.
Okay, when was this application filed?
One moment. April 27th, 2018.
Okay, and it was deemed complete when?
September 19th, 2018.
Okay, so are we running up against the shot clock?
So we had a current tolling agreement that ran through to December 28th, 2018. And we have a new tolling agreement that's been submitted by Verizon and was signed by County Council this morning.
Okay.
And that runs through January 11th, 2019.
Okay. So we did noticing for the December 7th hearing?
That's correct.
Okay. But I recall the December 7th hearing, there was, we continued it for some type of noticing.
That's correct.
What was the issue for noticing that we continued it on?
For the December 7th hearing, noticing, or the posters for the hearing were not posted at the site. So it's required that those hearing posters are posted 10 days prior to the hearing.
So when I went by to look at this site on 2 different occasions, there was posting on the site. Now, yeah, probably from my car, I could see the sign. I couldn't see all of the individual lettering, which will be, I think, very difficult from a car, but I could clearly see the signs. So you indicated that someone complained about the height of the sign?
That's correct.
Was the issue that was raised? That the lettering was not legible, or what was the issue there?
So in regard to this specific location, I received correspondence in regard to the height at which the hearing notice was posted at the site, that it was too high and not at eye level.
Okay. Was the signage, I guess the signage was up more than 10 days prior to the hearing because we continued it from December 7th, right? So there's been signage out there since that time?
So right, we continued the item on December 7th because the hearing posters were not posted at the site. So for the December 21st hearing, for this hearing, I received an affidavit from the applicant that the sign was posted 10 days prior to the hearing, to this hearing on the 21st.
Okay.
And then I went out on the site on Friday, the 14th of December, to post signs at eye level.
Okay. Based upon that
Yes.
public communication.
That's correct.
Okay. Once again, how far from the nearest residence is the facility?
Approximately 25 feet.
And the residential units are on M1 industrial zone property.
That's correct.
So under the code, is there a restriction or a prohibition for residential uses or residential zoning? What does the code indicate?
For residential uses in M1 zoning.
Okay.
Is that the question?
Right.
One moment, I'll pull up the code.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my question is, do they need to do, was the applicant required to look at alternative locations because of the proximity of residential uses to the facility?
No. The facility is not located in a prohibited district. Wireless communication facilities are conditionally permitted in the M1 zoning, therefore they do not need to provide an alternatives analysis. They did provide analysis of a couple other poles in the area.
Okay. Did we receive any communications from any of or do you know of any of the residents that live nearby?
We did not receive any communication from those residents, and the sign has been posted ever since the applications were deemed complete in September.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing for public testimony. If the applicant or applicant's representative is present and would like to make any remarks or clarification or ask questions, now is the time to do so. Please come forward and state your name for the record if you want to make any remarks. Okay. Good morning. Please state your name for the record and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Jeremy Stroop. That's spelled Jeremystroup. I'm with Vinculum Services, and today I'll be representing Verizon Wireless. I'd like to first thank staff for their hard work and effort in processing these applications. We understand it's a lot of work. Our objective today is to request the approval of 3 Level 5 development permits. The purpose of our project is to attach Verizon telephone equipment to telephone poles in order to increase network capacity. Our design is simple. It consists of one antenna with telephone equipment mounted vertically to a telephone pole. Much smaller than existing cell towers, small cells are designed around the existing utility pole network. The antenna is mounted to the top of a wood pole on a PG&E approved wooden bayonet. The antenna is shrouded in a canister in order to screen the antenna from public view. We also propose painting the antenna to match the color of the pole. The pole-mounted radio equipment consists of 2 radios, 1 fiber optic box, 1 power disconnect switch, and 1 PG&E smart meter. This design meets the WCF 006 interpretation of a small cell. The pole-mounted equipment will also be painted to match the color of the pole. Because the radio equipment is passively cooled and has no moving parts, none of the equipment produces noise. PG&E also performs a structural analysis known as an OCALC report to verify the structural integrity of the pole when our equipment is attached. I'd like to point out that each existing wood utility pole has a total structural threshold of 38%. That means all attached equipment, power lines, communication lines, cable lines, cross arms, existing equipment, existing power risers, as well as our proposed equipment, cannot exceed 38% of the pole's maximum structural capability. For replacement poles, that threshold is actually lowered to 25%, far below the maximum structural ability of each wood utility pole. Included in the staff report are copies of the third-party radio frequency reports which confirm each proposed small cell node complies with the federal standards for limiting public exposure to radio frequency. In attendance today is Bill Hammett of Hammett & Edison, the firm that produced these reports. Mr. Hammett is available to answer any question the administrator or the public have today. In closing, we believe the most appropriate place for telephone equipment is on telephone poles. Staff recommends the approval of application 18-1099, node 135. We concur with staff's recommendations and request the zoning administrator approve this application, allowing Verizon to increase the capacity of their network. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. You indicated that all of your equipment cannot exceed 38% of a pole's structural integrity.
That's correct.
What percentage? Are you at 38% or are you at 36 or 30%? What's the percentage?
Give me a second to pull that. Okay. Actually, I take that back. PG&E will provide those O calculations after we get approval from the zoning board or this zoning administration. They want to make sure before we apply for applications to them that the local jurisdiction is going to approve these. So once this is approved, we will produce our construction drawings to PG&E to perform those.
How do you know then that you need to go up 41.4 feet in height? If that is not, if the calculations have not been done, how do you know that that's the height you need?
Well, the height that we need isn't in relation to the OCalc or the structural analysis of it. The height is in relation to the Verizon network engineers' requirements.
Okay, I guess I'm not following. In terms of structural integrity, wouldn't a taller pole have more integrity when you start to increase the height in order to support the equipment? I would assume that you would increase or improve structural integrity if the pole dimension remains, the diameter remains the same as you go up. I would think that you would increase your overall integrity.
Well, for this note specifically, we're requesting, we're going to be attaching a 7-foot wooden bayonet to the top of the wood utility pole.
Okay.
That 7-foot bayonet is a PG&E approved bayonet
Okay.
that meets structural integrity.
And PG&E determined that you needed the 7-foot bayonet?
That's correct.
Okay. So you actually worked with who at PG&E? Was it the local office, or who were you working with to determine that you needed the 7-foot bayonet?
Our applications are submitted online, and then they are assigned to a regional representative from PG&E. For this site here, it's Brett Monahan.
Okay.
And Mark Anderson.
So for this particular one, you didn't look at or consider other locations that were further from the residential uses?
Actually, even though it's not required, we did do an alternative siting analysis, and I have that information.
Okay, what did you determine from that? Can you summarize it?
In addition to the primary pole, we looked at 3 other poles in the adjacent area.
Okay.
What we found was one pole had primary cutouts located on it. What that is on the high power lines on the very top. If those can be turned off by a fuse pole, PG&E does not allow us to attach to that pole. The second pole, located just to the north of our primary pole, had too much tree clutter. The tree was actually enshrouding the pole, so there was no equipment space to attach to that pole. And then just south of our primary pole, we found another PG&E pole that was between 2 driveways, and we felt that that would interfere with any trucks moving in or out of those 2 driveways.
Okay. And your engineers conducted the necessary, I don't say testing, but calculations to determine that the nearest resident or residents would not be affected by RF levels emanating from this pole?
That's correct. That information is included in the MNS report.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and open up the hearing for further public testimony. At this time, if there's anyone that wants to provide remarks, we will give you an equal 3 minutes. So you want to come forward and state your name?
Good morning, Satya Orion, and I'm the person who sent in the letter and the photo showing the height of the notice. I brought a photo, which I'll give to you. You can see from here. It was above my hand, the notice, and on top of it was stapled the yellow notice, and it was not readable from that level. And from a car, as you said, you can't read it either. So my understanding of the purpose of the notice is for noticing, letting the public know. No one was, only the people who read the Sentinel, which is not everyone, would be notified. So I recommend that this be continued.
Okay.
And can I continue on my time?
Yes.
And I'm also feeling really concerned about what I just heard about the conferring after the approval with PG&E or the telephone company, whichever, I can't remember exactly, about the integrity of the pole. Now that seems like that would be information you would need now to make your decision, not after the fact when it's already been approved. So that didn't jive with me. So I want to offer that as well. And I also have a lot of concerns about the closeness of the next door neighbor. The 6, I think it was homes, it's right there. I mean, it's right next to the pole, 25 feet. That's very close. The fact that they didn't write any letters, I don't know what that means. Did they not know about it? Are they here today? I don't know. Maybe they didn't write letters. But that concerns me. Also, people at Far West Nursery are quite concerned about the effects on their business of pole being out front. So, and that is right across the street from it. So, I don't know about Carpet One. That's also right there on the other side. So, I urge you to continue this to a later hearing, and if that doesn't happen, I urge you to deny it. Thank you.
Okay. Can I ask you, ma'am, did you attend the last hearing?
I'm sorry, what's
Did you
it?
attend the December 7th hearing on this matter?
I did.
Okay. So you were aware of this project on December 7th or prior to that?
I was, yeah.
Noticing. Okay.
There was no noticing at that time. I was aware just because I'm a member of EMF Aware and we follow these things.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Is there anyone else that wants to address this item? Please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning.
My name is Drew Lewis. I would encourage you to deny the application for this technology. We are dealing with a technology that has ominous implications for the health and safety of all people and other living things in our communities. The industry forcing this known health hazard is paying morally challenged scientists to doctor and fake so-called studies on safety of this technology. This classification of technology is already being used as a military weapon in war and crowd control at higher energy levels. At very high levels of power, this same technology cooks food in a microwave oven. I have tried to send this body scientific peer-reviewed documentation on this health hazard, but your email connection has rejected this effort. The CFA, California Firefighters Association, after numerous adverse health effects over several years, has taken a stand to not allow this technology placed on or near fire stations. These are some of the healthiest members of our society have been debilitated by the effects of this technology placed on or near fire stations, where they have been unable to find their own neighborhood during deployment when they are called out. This is a very dangerous technology, and there is well-documented peer-reviewed studies on this. If you go to PubMed, there's also documentation that we have presented to this body of doctors and scientists who are not paid for, not bribed by the telecom industries to present false data, and their data proves conclusively that this is a very dangerous technology, and it has documented adverse health effects of cancer and many other problems. So I would behoove you to really look at the data that we have presented and thoughtfully look at what the evidence of this, because this is going to affect all of us, all of our children, everybody in our community. It's going to be basically turning our communities into a low-power microwave oven. Do you want that? I don't think so.
Thank you. Good morning. Please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Good morning, my name is Jeff Huff. I live approximately 1,000 feet away from the proposed Boswick location. My kids attend a school right in the Green Acres campus. I would urge you to deny this application, and that's for reasons of equipment on top of equipment on top of equipment. Yeah, they may have analyzed this one piece of equipment on this one pole, but how does that compare to all the other poles and all the other equipment compounding on top of itself? It's right next to a school. My kids go to school there. We live there. And regardless of what the research says, if we ever go to sell the house that we put all of our savings into, it's going to be a negative impact on the sale of the house. And that evidence has shown that. And so again, I just implore you to deny it, because especially it's right next to a school, multiple children. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. And I think you were addressing item number 3, and we're on item number 1, but we will we'll make note of that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jill Amos. I'm born and raised here in Santa Cruz. This is my first time attending in a facility like this due to the fact that I work, and which a majority of the people here in our community do, and they don't have the opportunity to come in and speak with regards to the issues before you this morning. First of all, with regards to issue number 1 that we're addressing here first on your schedule, I would compel you to take further look at some of the implications at what's happening in the community and especially in the area of Live Oak. Again, I am born and raised there. My father is a local businessman and has been for over 53 years. My father helped install the very first playground equipment at Live Oak School. The reason why I compel you to postpone this for further review, some of the data information that's been presented as far as capacity of a pole, location, they did say that they viewed poles to the south and they viewed poles to the north. Those aren't actually specifically labeled as to this is the pole. If you're driving down the frontage road based off of where Carpet 1 is and all of the other poles, there are many poles down in the ravine areas. The radius of which the capacity for these cell towers in order to project things do not need to be located that close within 25 yards of a residence. We are in a rural area, and I think that it needs to have further review and depth into location of the poles. Also, I compel you for further information with regards, this is Verizon, and I understand we need to have growth, but there are other companies out there, and if we open up the door for Verizon, when is Xfinity going to come in and want to do theirs? When is, the other companies that are out there going to want to put theirs? And if we're talking about 38% of a capacity of a pole, and you want 4 or 5 more companies, what's going to happen to that pole? I think that the work still needs to be done for further advisement. We need to look at what we want for Santa Cruz County overall, not just this one issue, but as an overall picture. What is it that we want for our area and our future? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Stan Manning. I live at the intersection of Madison and Chanticleer, and that's right across from the proposed pole modification. And I'm opposed to the implementation of this facility for 2 reasons. One is financial, the other is environmental. Environmental, I think the previous people have covered that and expressed my concerns as well. I think financially, the U.S. HUD Association has documented the decrease in the property value by up to 20%. Right, by having association or proximity to a cell phone tower. And so I think also that there needs to be more interface with PG&E as to liability and responsibility, because this is just like branches of trees hanging over utility lines that are primary to the entire area. Should something go wrong, this would knock out our power to the entire Live Oak area. These lines that are below the tower are critical and need to be evaluated for that reason. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to address item number 1 on our agenda? Good morning.
Morning. My name is Joshua Logan. I'm an area resident. I'm concerned about the visual impact of these antennas. We're talking about large canister antennas, 15 inches in diameter, 2 feet high to 4 feet high. And the Santa Cruz County Code defines a microcell antenna as an omnidirectional whip antenna. That's something like is on your car stereo, or a directional panel antenna. These are neither of those. These are canister antennas, and I'm concerned about the visual impact they could have. So I urge you to deny this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to address item number 1? Please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. Before I, Riley Gerbrand, before I start my comments, I just want some clarifications. First
Well,
clarification.
that would be part of your 3 minutes, sir. We're not going to get you into getting clarification or discussing the item.
No, it's not discussing the item.
You can see clarification during your 3 minutes. If we need to extend that, we will do so.
Okay.
So go ahead and start it out.
So my clarifications, will public comment on this item apply for the other 2 items?
Yes, if you need to, at this point, leave after this item, we'll go ahead and...
I just want to know if I need to come up 3 times.
We will be conducting separate hearings for all 3. I believe that these are standalone
Yes, they are.
facilities. So we will be conducting separate hearings for all 3 items.
Yes, you're going to hear this 3 times.
Okay.
And how about the documents? We need to submit documents 3 times for public record?
No, you do not.
Did you read the comments in the staff report that we submitted, specifically my comments?
Yes.
December 6th,
Yes.
10th, and 14th?
Yes.
That the Class 3 CEQA category exemption does not apply?
Yes.
Okay. The applications are incomplete?
Yes, I read all of your comments.
Okay. The proposed facilities would create visual impacts in new and excessive ways because they'd be far above the height of the existing power poles and utility lines?
Yes.
Okay. My arguments for this hearing are many and varied and complex, so if you want additional time, I'd be happy to provide it. First, I'd like to submit 40 signatures on a petition I got gathered in 1 hour, all opposed to this. All residents, mostly residents of Live Oak. Many already have very good Verizon coverage. These facilities are not in harmony with the Santa Cruz County Code. It reads in the residential planning districts, preserve areas for residential uses protected from incompatible effects of non-residential land uses. The code prohibits these in certain residential areas. Of course, there's exceptions, which this applicant is using. They're restricted for placement near schools. One would be adjacent to Green Acres Elementary. One would be adjacent to Chanticleer Avenue Park where kids play. They are not small facilities. I would show in this existing facility on Brommer. This is the mock-up. You can see that it is not something that looks like a pole. It's bigger than the pole and extends far above the pole, above the existing lines. Examples from other jurisdictions where they do not look like poles. They create economic impacts, 20% decrease in property value per scientists' studies. There's a business far west that would be impacted by people no longer being able to access the business. They create environmental impacts to bees and birds who can no longer find their way. They damage trees, which is a visual impact in communities. The applicant fails to show they can't achieve the same effect using existing technologies. This is not a gap in coverage, this is a capacity. They could buy more bandwidth from the FCC, resulting in the same results that they would achieve by new placement by just expanding the number of bandwidth that they would have.
I'm going to give you 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Since I got into your time.
Thank you. So on that issue, there's basically there's a limit to what a cell phone telecommunications facility can achieve through the existing bandwidth they have. So they have a certain amount of customers that they want to provide service to. And with that bandwidth, they can only receive a certain amount of customers before they max out and the service goes down. What they're saying is they need to have more sites in order to then diminish the number of people accessing that one pole and that one facility. However, they have failed to show, as required in the county code, that they could achieve that same result by just increasing the bandwidth at that location, thereby reaching the same amount of customers that they want to achieve, but with the existing facility. Now, there's future development. I have documents that show that. One is this video here. I have also an email that I can provide. There's going to be more and more of these. We have documentation stating from the industry here that there's going to be hundreds of new sites proposed next year. We've also got documentation to the community here that they're going to want to put them every 400 to 500 feet. I say don't ask the Verizon representative here because he's not Verizon. He may not know all the plans. So this is going to create cumulative effects, and I've shown in the documents I've given you why that's the case. So this is not CEQA exempt because they're going to have cumulative impacts on each other. Specifically, if they're going to be every 500 feet, you can see that distance. You can hear that distance. They're not small. The U.S. code says a 10-foot addition is significant structural modification. Do you want me to continue, or?
Yeah, you can finish that sentence.
Okay. So the U.S. codes, I have the section here if you want me to recite it. Anything above 10 feet, the FCC considers a significant structural modification, and therefore is not a change to a small structure. It becomes outside of that.
Okay, thank you. On the agenda that would like to do so, please come forward and state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Williams, staff, and members of the public. My name is Ori Kaur. I live at 371 9th Avenue in Live Oak. And I'm sorry I have to read this. I am concerned about the aesthetics of the proposed microcell facilities and believe the county must require more information from the applicant in order to fulfill its obligation under the Santa Cruz County Code sections 1310.660 et sec to minimize the visual impacts of these proposed facilities in Live Oak. I'm not a Luddite. I use technology and understand and accept that its development and associated infrastructure are inevitable. I also understand that 5G infrastructure will result in a proliferation of microcell facilities at a level that we have not experienced because facilities will eventually be located or co-located in almost every part of the county, and not only by Verizon, but by its wireless competitors as well. The applicants are pursuing their commercial interests. Understandably, they want to install their facilities quickly and as cheaply as possible. Unfortunately for the residents of the county, this means that these applications seek the approval of facilities that, though co-located on existing utility poles, will be visually obvious and wholly unattractive. The residents of the county depend on county staff to protect the aesthetics of our community by strictly interpreting and applying the county code in their interests. If this means burdening the applicant with the requirements of mock-ups of their proposed facilities and design alternatives that render the proposed facilities the most visually inconspicuous relative to other technically feasible designs, then so be it. The tension between the demands of 5G technology and the protection of community interests was discussed at length in an article published in the New York Times on March 2nd, 2018, entitled 5G Service is Coming, Who Decides Where It Goes? So long as the county retains its land use authority over siting and appearance of microcell facilities, it must exercise its authority with due diligence. I have reviewed the staff report and the accompanying correspondence. I'm not convinced that the county has done anything more than accept the applicant's position that co-located microcell facilities, as proposed, will result in minimal visual impacts. I am familiar with one existing facility at 17th Brommer, which I believe was approved by the county in 2015. Similar to the current proposals, equipment was installed on the existing pole at the top and at eye level. The equipment was painted, though the brown color does not match the gray color of the pole. No attempt was made to camouflage the equipment or the tentacles of wires connecting the boxes at eye level. Moreover, the applicant never bothered to remove the project notice that was apparently posted over 3 years ago. I urge you to continue these applications and require the applicant to provide mock-ups of the proposed facilities and alternatives to camouflaging the facilities in order to minimize their visual impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
My name is Joanne Walfeld, and I live in Scotts Valley. I want to talk about also the polls. I want to talk about the polls and the radiation, non-ionizing radiation. That is a threat to all of us. And I've been in the health field for many decades. The amount of radiation human cells require is zero radiation. And of course, we can't do zero radiation now that we're in a technological age. But you do not put wireless, you do not put cell towers around humans. It is extremely dangerous. There are thousands of studies that do study non-ionizing radiation, and this is going to be pulsed at many thousands of times. That's what damages the cells, the pulsing and the microwaves. The environmentalhealthtrust.org, Dr. Deborah Davis, Barry Trower, Max Egan, Alana Friedland. We have so many scientists now that have an appeal to stop this 5G from the Earth and from space, because this will utilize satellites that will be beaming down at us 24/7.
Amen.
Internet of Things, which will be our dishwasher could be communicating across the world to somebody else's wireless device. And all of these beams are going through our human bodies. We cannot take this, and we will not be here for very long, and that's just science, and because we are humans with the biological body. And it should be noted that smaller, thinner skulls, the microwave radiation passes through their brains faster and deeper. And I have pictures of this, I don't have them here, from different conferences. And so your babies, your kids, your grandkids, your sweet cats and dogs that are innocent will be affected faster. And this will start to develop brain cancer, thyroid cancer, because these tissues are very sensitive, heart problems, hormone problems on all of us, but especially those with smaller, thinner skulls. I think it's a travesty that we're allowing telecom to rule our lives. And it's killing the bee population, and the bees are really responsible for our produce. And I would like to submit this that explains this in a scientific but intelligent way for you, and some DVDs. Please look at these DVDs. Martin Paul, he's brilliant. 60 peer-reviewed papers in your car. It's great to listen to in the car if you don't have an hour and a half at night. You'll learn a lot about what is really happening, and all of us are involved. We cannot get off this earth, so it affects every one of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, can I just ask staff, is this a 5G request? Do we know?
The applicant has not communicated that these are 5G, but perhaps we can pose that question to the applicant.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to address item number 1, application 181099 on our agenda? Please come forward and state your name for the record, and we will give you 3 minutes. Good morning.
Marilyn Garrett, part of Wireless Radiation Alert Network. I've been coming here for 18 years since I retired from teaching, and you know the health consequences of exposure to this radiation because you have been given many documents of the adverse health effects. And I'd also like to cite, and paraphrasing, the former health officer of this county, Dr. Pokey Mancom, who did a report in January 12th of 2012, health risks associated with smart meters. And the report also dealt with other sources of radiation exposure. And one of the recommendations she had, and what she stated, is that government officials are the only entity that can prevent this kind of involuntary exposure. That means the county should be halting this kind of documented harmful exposure. And to remind you that no resident, no fetus, no child has authorized involuntary, mandatory, 24/7 microwave radiation trespass. You do not have an informed consent form from anybody. And we do not consent to violations of our health, privacy, constitutional, or property rights. This is a toxic trespass issue. And you approved, near where I live in Aptos, 13 cell towers within a square mile. I call them cell towers on utility poles by Verizon 4G, and the radiation level measurements are up. We know from surveys around cell towers in 17 different locations that people experience the symptoms of radio wave or microwave sickness, of fatigue, memory loss, insomnia, heart irregularities. There's a very long list that's substantiated. So by approving these toxic sites and permits to poison, you are approving and forcing this kind of damage on the population. Verizon and their cohorts get handsomely paid while we get microwaved and the planet gets destroyed. It needs to halt. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to address item number 1 on our agenda? 3 minutes to state your name for the record. Good morning.
Good morning. Bruce Tanner. I think there are multiple reasons to deny this installation. There are certainly multiple reasons to continue the hearing on this. In particular, the improper noticing. The noticing was not in 10 days in advance of the hearing. It was only a week when people could actually read the posted information about the installation. And at no point was the main sign showing people that this installation was going in made legible, because the yellow sheet with all the fine information was right over the middle of those signs in all 3 of these cases. And so people could not see what was going on from a car. That's one thing. This installation is 25 feet from a house. The strength of the radiation goes up by a square of the distance. So if you're 25 feet away, you're getting exposed to thousands of times higher radiation than somebody who's 500 feet away. This radiation, what the U.S. permits in terms of radiation, is at least 10 times higher than any other industrialized, civilized nation in the world. And it is hundreds of times greater than what many of the nations of the world permit. And it's thousands of times higher than what some countries in the world, including Israel, permit. There are thousands of studies that show that serious damage to human health occurs at levels much lower than what the FCC, in its infinite wisdom, permits. And as Marilyn was saying, the damage to children is epic, and we will see epidemics of severe health issues and premature death if we continue down this path that we're going on. I would like to close by saying that the Telecommunications Act doesn't allow these installations to be turned down for environmental reasons, but it doesn't say anything about health reasons in there, and it could not. Could you imagine saying in a statute that government could not protect people's health? That is unimaginable. And who sets the policy at the county? What is the jurisdiction of the people in the county who are saying that we can't reject these because of the impact on human health? I would say that they're violating their trust and their oaths of office. So the county needs to begin to represent the interests of the people of Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Anyone else that's not spoken on item number 1 on our agenda that would like to do so? Now is the time to come forward. We'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning, please state your name.
Hello, good morning. My name is Melissa Yivig. I live in Santa Cruz, and I've become recently aware of 5G, and it's hard for me to hold back the tears. I've been studying Dr. Martin Paul that other folks have referenced, and it's just horrifying. I'm of childbearing age, and the amount of infertility and just the, I hope that my emotions express something in terms of the fear that I have in my body for the future of humanity, and how much autism, ADHD, all the stories are coming true. So I'm not as well educated here. I can, the P's, everything. I just want to share my that this is nothing to joke about, and I'm viscerally and physiologically in fear, and I'm going to do everything with my being to stop this, to protect this earth and protect all life. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that's not spoken yet on item number 1 on our agenda that wants to do so? Now is your time to come forward. We'll give you 3 minutes. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Marcia Blaker. I just want to add to the signage fiasco that has been going on for the last 3 weeks. Finally, they were able to get 2 signs on the poles, but it didn't happen until the 14th or 15th of this month. It was, and then, it was last Sunday when it was pouring rain. So at first the signs were too far overhead, you couldn't even read them. And then when they came to put the second sign up, they put it directly over that high sign. So you couldn't even read the first sign, and the second sign started to curl up immediately. So you couldn't read that one either. So that went on for about 5 days. I can write it out exactly because I have it all documented. And then finally they brought the signs, the one sign down, didn't remove the other sign from covering the big sign, never did that. And so then finally you could read the hearing sign, but literally that was what Jonathan said was, I think it was the 14th. It wasn't very long ago, not long enough, not 10 days before the hearing. It started to almost make me laugh. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning. Please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
My name's Paul DeSoma. I'm a resident of Live Oak. I have a letter from Jonathan DeSalvo to Ken Hart about 7 applications that were in front of him, and these 3 today were part of that. And the first item says, please provide a table and an associated map indicating the location and types of both existing and proposed facilities in the county. Now, this is a letter of incomplete application. So the first item is asking for a map of what I just said, the locations of proposed and existing. The word that came back from the applicant was that this is proprietary information and they can't provide that. So does this not mean that the applications are still incomplete? If they are considered complete, then the rules seem to be rather fluid, bending in favor of the applicant. Like so many people have pointed out, this is new technology being unleashed on communities on a global scale, really, and it really just looks an awful lot like the corporate interests are the biggest factor. Everybody trying to get out in front of this technology, which is untested. A lot of Bay Area municipalities are showing leadership by using the few legislative means available to slow or delay or stop this premature infrastructure rollout. In our area, it's Verizon, AT&T is close behind. Current county codes and ordinances, I think, are inadequate in the face of this new technology. It has to happen before this level of approval, but new ordinances need to be drafted. Public servants willing to do the hard work have to step up. Telecom is lobbying Congress to remove what protections municipalities have and to limit what municipalities can be paid. And to a casual observer, it would look like Santa Cruz City and County are trying to get as many of these installed as they can at a favorable rate before limits are imposed. That's not looking out for the best interests of the community. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that is not spoken on item number 1 on our agenda that would like to do so? Now is the time to come forward. We'll give you 3 minutes. Is there anyone else who's not spoken? Okay. So seeing that there is no one else that wants to address item number 1 on our agenda, I'm going to close the hearing from public testimony at this point. So I do have some additional questions of the applicant, if you want to come back to the mic, of the applicant and staff. The first question is this a 5G installation that's being proposed?
This is not a 5G proposal. This is a 4G.
Okay. When is 5G going to be rolled out, do you know?
I personally don't have any information about that. I know as much as everybody else does by reading the news, but...
Okay. But it does include a smart meter. This one does.
This one does, yes.
Okay. What is the diameter of the existing pole?
I don't have that information right now. That information will be collected in the whole calculation. That is at a PG&E.
So is the diameter of the proposed equipment going to be equal to or very similar to the diameter of the pole that will be there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So no two poles are exactly the same in diameter. But typically what we find is that at the most, it may exceed the width of the pole by an inch at the most on each side.
An inch on each side.
Right, but there's different classes of poles. The smaller the class, the larger the diameter of the pole is. So like I said, not every pole is the same.
Because I know that someone gave me at the last hearing a photo of a pole at another jurisdiction where a Cantana was overhanging, I think, the pole by like, I'm going to say maybe 4 or 5 inches on each side, but you're saying it would only be about an inch.
That's correct. I'm not sure what the other jurisdiction photo looks like, but I can tell you that our equipment is vertically mounted, so we don't expect to have 4 or 5 inches on each side of our equipment hanging over the pole at all.
And how do you make the equipment appear similar, or the Cantana appear similar to the pole? Are these all done individually, or do you have sort of one size fits all in terms of the coloring and materials?
So for coloring, what we've been requested to do is paint the Cantana and the equipment to match the pole color itself. We feel that that will make a streamlined look.
Okay, so 5 years down the road, when it starts to weather and the paint is worn off or dulled, what are you going to do?
So one of the conditions of approval in these applications is that Verizon would maintain the paint color on an annual basis.
Okay. Okay, for staff,
I do, can I make a point of clarification on
Yeah.
the question you had earlier? So quickly, the O calculations that PG&E will perform, they will provide those to us, and we will provide that at time of building application to this county. The other thing with the 7-foot wood bayonet, that 7 foot is required by CPUC, GO 95 separation rules. That's why it's the 7 foot, just in relation to your previous question.
so when you were working with the PG&E engineer, they identified that in order to comply with GO 95, you needed that 7-foot separation.
That's correct.
Okay. How about that noticing, the sign where it was stapled or taped over the top one? How did that happen?
Are you talking about the yellow sign over
Yeah.
the wood?
Yeah.
We had Ken Hart go out and place those. What we found is that from time to time, what we find is people in the public are tearing those down. We wanted to make sure that we were compliant
Right.
with the requirement to
Right.
notice, so Ken put them up slightly higher. But since then, we've actually re-noticed them on a lower level, and that's including staff.
Okay. And I know at the last hearing I did suggest that you do one at a higher level and one at a lower level.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, my question for you, why no mock-up on this one? Although I think I probably know. We typically don't do mock-ups, do we, for utility poles in the right-of-way? And the planning directors indicated that.
That's correct.
That's not a
And I'm
requirement.
just looking for the finding here in the file.
So she didn't make a finding for that.
Yes. It is in the file. Right, so the need for mock-ups was discussed at the December 7th zoning administrator hearing, and found that the ZA, the planning director's designee, found that the mock-ups are not necessary to render a decision for these projects. And mock-ups are typically not required for wireless communication facilities co-located on utility poles. The height of the proposed facilities are in general conformance with the height of utility poles in the vicinity and give a similar height and bulk to other types of utility infrastructure that would be proposed by PG&E or the county in the public right-of-way.
Okay. I think that probably answers all of my questions. But let me ask, once again, there is a condition contained in the report that would require PG&E to go out on an annual basis, look at the antenna, and if necessary, replace it. Or who goes out on an annual basis and looks at it? Do they, or the staff, or?
I can read the condition of the report
Okay.
here. So under operational conditions in Exhibit C, so that is 4C, The condition of approval reads, the exterior finish and materials of the wireless communication facility must be maintained on an annual basis to continue to blend with the existing utilities infrastructure. Additional paint and/or replacement materials shall be installed as necessary to blend the wireless communication facility with the existing utilities infrastructure.
I'm sorry, can you read that again?
Sure. The exterior finish and materials of the wireless communication facility must be maintained on an annual basis to continue to blend with the existing utilities infrastructure. Additional paint and/or replacement materials shall be installed as necessary to blend the wireless communication facility with the existing utilities infrastructure.
Okay. If the applicant can come back to the mic one more time, I want to ask about this proprietary information that was referred to by one of the speakers regarding the location and types of proposed facilities. Can you address that?
Yeah, so the requirement is SEC code 1310662B5, the way I understand it. It's to provide a map of our... So based on this code, which states that the requested information is intended to be utilized for a county GIS map, Verizon Wireless cannot provide existing, proposed, or future network facility maps due to the proprietary information that these maps would provide a GIS system.
Read the bottom of the code.
So Verizon, what, your corporate offices have determined that, or who determined that you can't provide that?
That is from Verizon.
Okay. So do we have something, did we receive something from Verizon to indicate that from their attorneys or corporate offices or what?
It was provided by myself to Jonathan DeSalvo in my notice of incomplete comments. That would be under comment 1. But a GIS map is available for the public use.
And Verizon notified you of that
That's correct.
in writing?
I don't have that in writing. I have that from verbal conversations and meetings with Verizon.
Okay, we would want that in writing.
And the code says it would be confidential.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so my concern is that this is, I have somewhat of a concern that it's 25 feet from a residential use. However, I think if this is going to appear similar to, it was going to be painted and made to look like the existing utility pole, and it's only 1 inch over on each side, is not going to, based upon the height that's proposed, is not going to appear significantly different from other utility poles in the vicinity of this site. And unfortunately, in the M1 zone or in our commercial zones, there is a lot of clutter in the right-of-way. So this is not, the extension of this utility pole is not going to greatly reduce the level of clutter in the right-of-way, but it's not going to exacerbate, I guess I want to say it's not going to exacerbate visual impacts for the adjacent residents. I do agree, I think staff indicated this was a class 3 determination. I'm going to indicate for the record that that is consistent with what the court has found for this type of facility processed by the County of Santa Cruz. And there was a court decision, I apologize, I had it at the last hearing, I didn't bring it up with me this time, but there was a court decision, I believe in 2017, regarding the installation of the 13 microcells in Aptos. And the court made a determination that our categorical 3 exemption was appropriate for microcells in the right-of-way. This is not proposed to be 5G as the applicant has indicated, and I heard a lot of testimony regarding 5G, and I'll indicate that I do have a concern about 5G, the installation of 5G by Verizon and other carriers throughout the county. I can indicate that the county is in the process of trying to work with county council to try and select a consultant to help us in terms of modifying our current wireless regulations. And hopefully 5G will get addressed at that point. And hopefully also, there's a need to look at health effects or other issues that will all get hopefully addressed at that point. However, the applicant has indicated, staff has included information as part of the staff report, technical documents, that the RF levels for the nearest residential unit will not exceed what has been established by FCC, and FCC is the final judge on that matter. So I think that issue can be dealt with. I'll indicate also, I think someone said anything above 10 feet is considered significant by the FCC, and that is not correct. So if you go back and you look at the most recent FCC regulations, you can go above 10 feet, and it is not at that point considered significant. I believe it's, I want to say 20 feet. I think it was changed to 20 feet, or as necessary. I think that's what the language says. I think because PG&E, relying upon GO95, indicated that this is the appropriate height that's required in order to make this structurally stable. We have to go by what PG&E, following PUC or state regulations, has adhered to. So we're going to rely upon the state code for that. So I'm going to make a determination that this project is exempt from further environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act. I'm going to approve this application with a couple of modified conditions regarding the annual review by PG&E. We want a letter or statement submitted by PG&E, I'm sorry, not by PG&E, by the applicant, by Verizon, or whoever it is that's maintaining the facility at that point, a statement that indicates that an inspection has been completed and that the color or materials are not significantly different or worn, all that stuff, come up with the word for that, than what was approved by the zoning administrator. Let's see, there was one other, now I can't think of what else I was going to add. Second condition, we want a letter from Verizon that indicates that this is proprietary information that is not to be shared regarding the location and types of proposed facilities throughout the county. Now I'm going to indicate also, we want that letter, however, that information, when we asked for that in the past, was provided with the understanding that we were going to create some type of GIS layer for the public to look at regarding the location of all these facilities. That was never done by the planning department, and so a lot of that information that we gathered 9-10 years ago either was lying dormant, was tossed, but that GIS layer was never done, and I think a determination was made at some point by the planning department not to continue collecting that information. However, I still want that letter from Verizon. So that's the second modification. So having said that, I'm going to approve application 181099 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the staff report with those modifications. And that concludes that matter. Thank you. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll move on to item number 2 on our agenda. Thank you.